I'm Dalne Sinclair with the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Traditional fisheries may no longer be the world's most important provider of fish. A new United Nations report shows that fish farming of aquaculture may soon lead fish production. The Food and Agriculture Organization says aquaculture is growing by a rate of 6.6% a year. Aquaculture now produces 46% of the world's supply of fish. That represents a 43% increase from 2006. The report also said aquaculture earned more money in 2008 than traditional fisheries. The FAO headquarters in Rome published the document State of the World's Fisheries and Aquaculture. In aquaculture, fish are raised in tanks or small bodies of water, called ponds. They also are raised in cages or nets in oceans, lakes, and rivers. The report says increased aquaculture has helped people around the world eat record amounts of fish. The FAO says each people ate an average of almost 17 kilograms of fish last year. But the FAO says the current yearly wild fish harvest of 19 million tons shows no improvement. Decreasing numbers of fish and stronger catch limits have produced the possibilities for the catching wild fish. The FAO report says about 32% of world supplies are overfished. Depleted or recovering, it says that these supplies of fish need to be urgently rebuilt. Some scientists have criticized aquaculture. They say the nets and cage permit fish diseases and pests to spread. Some aquaculture critics doubt about that aquaculture can keep growing at the current rate. But Wally Stevens of the trade group Global Aquaculture Alliance says the industry must continue developing to feed growing populations. Mr. Stevens says a 100% increase in fish farming over 10 years is necessary to keep providing for people at the current levels. He notes that the aquaculture creates jobs and wealth, especially for people in coastal areas of China. The FAO reports that China remains the world's largest fish-producing nation. China produces more than 60% of the world's farmed fish. For VOA Special English, I'm Dalne Sinclair. This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Compost is a dark, rich material added to soil to improve it. Compost is produced when bacteria and fungi break down organic matter, aided by insects, earthworms, and other organisms. This natural recycling returns nutrients to the soil. Some experts advise adding 5 centimeters of compost for every 15 centimeters of turned soil. More and more people are making their own compost at home. Composting can reduce the amount of garden and cooking waste that would otherwise go into public landfills. Monica David from the University of Illinois Extension oversees the Master Gardeners program in her state. She explains that you can make a compost pile or dig a pit or use a waste container with holes to cut in the side. There are different methods of composting. Some take more work, others take almost no work, but may require waiting up to a year. Advice about composting can be found from extension services, at garden centers, in book and other internet. For example, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation lists some do's and don'ts of composition on its website. Do add lime, small amount of wood ashes, or crushed eggshells to the compost pile. This will neutralize acids which make form and cause a bad smell. Do mix grass cutting with other wastes to loosen them up. And do keep the compost pile damp, especially during dry periods. Do not use unfinished compost. It will rob plants of nitrogen instead of acting as a fertilizer. Do not compost wetty plants with loss of seeds. Some seeds will not be killed during the natural heating process in composting. Do not add meat, fish bones, or fatty foods waste to the compost mixture. Proteins materials do not readily decompose and they will bring animals. And finally, do not add diseased vegetables plants to the pile. If the compost will be used on a vegetable garden, diseased organisms may reappear if you do. Compost differs from mulch, but it can be used as mulch. Mulch is placed on top of soil to protect it. Mulch is generally used to a height of about 10 centimeters, but finer materials such as compost should only be 2.5 to 7.5 centimeters high. Too much mulch can restrict oxygen and water flow. And that's the VAO Special English Agriculture Report.